Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen, and in this video I'm doing my November reading wrap-up. I read kind of a lot of books for me in November. I read 4 books. Been a while since I've read 4 books in 1 month, but unfortunately I'm unhauling 3 of the 4 books that I read. So kind of a reading wrap-up and unhaul all in one. So the first book that I read in November was Breathless by Jennifer Niven, and I was super excited for this one. This one was a 5-star prediction for me. Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven was a 5-star read for me. All the Bright Places is a 4-star read, and so I had high hopes and expectations for this one. And it was just really boring. It's kind of a bit of a summer beach read situation, which is not really my favorite niche. I feel like I tend to be bored by beach reads. But yeah, there just was not much about this one that I liked. The dialogue all felt kind of forced to me. It didn't feel believable. And yeah, I just didn't really get any enjoyment out of the book. The book is about a girl who's just graduating high school. She's planning to go on a summer road trip with her best friend, and then her parents say that they are getting divorced. They won't let her tell her friend that they're getting divorced because they don't want it to get around town, and her mom is bringing her with her for the summer to like an island off the coast of Georgia that she used to go to as a kid, and she wants to like research her aunt or great aunt, and she's planning to like write a book about her because the mother is an author. And so yeah, the mom just sort of is like, you're not going on this road trip with your friend that you've been planning for a long time. Instead, you're coming with me and you're not going to explain anything to your best friend, which seemed a little weird to me. But when she's on the island, of course, she meets a boy and has a summer romance. And the relationship between her and this boy, I kind of felt like was kind of like a reverse deconstruction of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope. So like 500 Days of Summer, Looking for Alaska, some like examples of stories that kind of try to deconstruct the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope. Like the boy spends the whole book not really hearing anything that the girl is saying, just she's this perfect girl and he just wants her regardless. And like the point of these stories is that like the boys putting the girls on these pedestals is like bad for both the boy and the girl. And so in this book had like the trope of the girl who meets the guy and has a crush on him, and the guy says, "Oh, I'm not interested in a serious relationship." And the girl's like, "Don't worry, I won't fall in love." And then of course, the moment that they have sex, the next day the girl sees the guy talking to another girl and gets all pissy about it. And it's like, he told you from the beginning that this was not going to be a serious relationship. Clearly you didn't listen, and clearly you weren't telling the truth when you said that you wouldn't treat it like a serious relationship, which I feel like is a pretty common trope to have that kind of little storyline happen. And I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of the reverse of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, because in this case it's the girl not really listening to what the guy is telling her. So I don't know, that was I guess a somewhat interesting part of the book. I didn't like it because it's a pretty common trope, so it wasn't anything new, but this was kind of the first time that I saw the trope and kind of in my mind connected it to the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope. Do you agree that this is kind of like that trope but gender swapped? Because I feel like that's kind of how it is. One thing I did like about the relationship was the boy kept calling the girl Captain as like a nickname, and I don't know, I just thought it was really cute for some reason. I don't know why. Another thing I liked about the relationship is that is one part of the book that did, for the most part, feel pretty realistic. And the book did have a lot of really good, like, sex positive messages. So aside from that, like, little bit of tropey stuff that was vaguely annoying, most of the relationship, like I said, felt really realistic, pretty cute, and was pretty sex positive, which was nice. Although some of that stuff also felt a little bit forced, a little bit like it was giving a lecture, but that could be a good thing for like younger readers, I feel like. So yeah, overall, I feel like this would maybe be a pretty good book for teen readers, but me personally, I was very bored by it. It's very heavily focused on the romance. There's not like a ton of plot happening. So unfortunately, this 5-star prediction is being unhauled. Next, I read My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Bachman. And this is the only book this month that I'm not unhauling. I've been working my way through all the Bachman books. I started with A Man Called Uva, which I kind of just randomly picked up from a lending wall at the library, and I didn't have any expectations for it, and I absolutely loved it. It is a 5-star read. And so then I went and picked up Beartown by Frederick Bachman, which I used a Christmas gift card for that, and at the time, Beartown was like one of the only books that I could find at the Barnes & Noble I was at. I really was hoping for Britt Marie because that one seems like it'll be similar to Uva, but they didn't have Britt Marie at the time, so I just got Beartown. And I read that one last year, and while I still really loved the writing, like Frederick Bachman is an amazing writer, the story itself for me, I didn't like as much as Uva. It was more of a 3-star read. And so now this year I read My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. Once again, this was a Christmas gift card the following year, and once again Britt Marie was not at Barnes & Noble, so I went with this one instead. But I was pleasantly surprised to find that Britt Marie is in this Bachman book as well as a side character, and it made me even more excited to pick that one up eventually, as she does as a character remind me of Uva. But I did like this one a lot better than Beartown, still not as much as A Man Called Uva. It was more of a 4-star read. But yeah, again, Bachman is just an amazing writer. His characters just feel so human. They feel like real people. Even if they're doing things that aren't necessarily super believable, they still feel very real. This one got back into having a little bit of humor. Beartown doesn't have as much humor as A Man Called Uva. This one weirdly felt a little bit slower than Uva, even though I feel like a lot more happens in this book than in A Man Called Uva. It's about a little girl whose best friend is her grandmother, and near the beginning of the story, this is not a spoiler because it's in the synopsis on the back, but near the beginning of the story, her grandmother dies and kind of sends her granddaughter on a bit of like a scavenger hunt situation, but she's delivering letters to the people in her apartment building that are from her grandmother, telling these people that she's sorry about something or other. And yeah, I really liked our main character, Elsa. I liked all the characters. Again, Frederick Bachman is extremely good at character work. So yeah, another funny, heartfelt read from Bachman. Very excited for Britt Marie someday, if I can ever find it in a bookstore. So then at the end of the month, I got kind of an early start on my younger reads. I tend to do younger reads in December for the holidays. Just light, fun reads. And for that, I jumped back into the books of Bayern by Shannon Hale, starting with a reread of the second book, In a Burning. So I read the first book, The Goose Girl, quite a few years ago, and it was okay, but I wasn't as much willing to DNF books or series back then, so even though it was just okay, I kept going with it. And I read In a Burning. I read this one last year, or maybe 2 years ago, not sure. And again, it was just okay, but I still wasn't DNFing as much back then. And also, the third book was going to be about my favorite character, Razzo. Each of these books are about a different main character. And so since the third one was going to be about my favorite character in the series, that was enough to keep me going. So yeah, I started with a reread of In a Burning. I won't talk about it too much because I've already talked about it in a wrap-up a year or two ago, but I'll just re-say from the previous time that I talked about the book, there's just not enough build-up in the beginning to like the war that happens and other things that happen. And then, I don't know, just the entire war storyline to me is poorly done. Like, the prince finds out that 3 towns in their country have already been like overrun by the enemy, like the day that we find out that there even is a war on, and that's just not how it works. And yeah, just the whole beginning is slow, and I feel like the storylines aren't very well done at the beginning. I do still like the end of the book better, but overall on this reread, I liked the book even less than the first time around. So then I read River Secrets, the third book in the series. And my favorite character could not save it. He was fun, but overall, all of the characters in this series I have begun to feel very flat. In this book, I did like the prince. They introduced a new prince from a different country, and he was a lot of fun. But again, a lot of the action didn't feel believable. The mystery, to me, was not very well done. Like, it's not meant to be a mystery book, it's a fantasy series, but this one does kind of try to do like a bit of a mystery situation, and it fails. And then the end was also pretty meh. To me, this all the way through, I was kind of bored. Most of the characters, including my favorite character, the main character, felt kind of flat. I don't think the storylines were well done. Although, once again, I was slightly tempted at the end to like go ahead and decide to finish the series at some point, because I read like the little excerpt for the beginning of the next book, and the little excerpt was enjoyable to read. The final book is about the main character's sister, but in the end I decided that I'm DNFing this series and unhauling what I have. It's a series that I kind of struggled through from the very beginning, and as time has passed, I just even more have mostly gotten bored by it. I will be sad to part with these really beautiful covers though. So yeah, those are all of the books that I read in November. Unfortunately, unhauling these three, but I did really enjoy this one. Let me know down below what you read in November and what you're planning to read for December. Are you planning to read any holiday reads? Or are you like me and you like to read children's books in December? I would love to know your holiday reading plans. I hope you enjoyed watching. Now onto the quote for today's video, which today I have one from The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. And it goes, "What a slut time is. She screws everybody." Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.